Well, Sammy Wilson, just taking, say, the big spending department there, health, do you agree with the Minister's assertion that he faces an £800+ million shortfall by 2015, 15% of his budget and 4,000 posts?
I could have had more sympathy for the Minister had he not been going around this time last year promoting the Tory candidates in Northern Ireland, the Tory policies in Northern Ireland and the Tory cuts in Northern Ireland. You know, so it comes a bit rich from him to complain about the impact of cuts when he actually advocated for people to vote for the cutting party.
But is he right on the figures?
No, and I think that the second thing is this, that the Executive was aware and is aware that health spending is very important in Northern Ireland, and as a result gave a degree of protection to the health budget which was not afforded to many other budgets in Northern Ireland. But of course at the end of the day we did have £4 billion taken out of our budget over the next 4 years. That meant we didn't have as much money to spend, and therefore inevitably there was going to be less money for departments.
So is Michael McGinty right when he predicts there will probably have to be compulsory redundancies?
Well, I think that first of all I would have thought that the first thing the Minister should have done is to at least have done his homework and done it thoroughly. And when I hear him talking about that this is a rough calculation and terminology like that, then I wonder how much of this is scaremongering coming up to the time when the budget is finally agreed, because it's only the draft budget at present, and how much of it is real.
Why is there room for manoeuvre? Could he get more money?
Well, all I would say to you is this, that I think it's a very cynical ploy to inject fear amongst the staff who he is responsible for by simply throwing this figure out and then telling us later it's a rough calculation. There are a number of ways in which, of course, the situation could be resolved. I mean, first of all, he needs to look hard at spending within his own department and ask, are there better ways of doing some of the things? Could he use, for example, the services of the voluntary and the social sector more effectively than what he's doing at present? Are there inefficiencies? And, you know, local newspapers have highlighted huge levels of inefficiencies and waste in the health spending. And secondly, lastly, of course, if he makes a case, but I mean, he singularly refused to do this. If he makes a case that more money should come off somebody else's budget and go onto his budget, that's something that the Executive and the Assembly would have to discuss.
But across the public sector as a whole, can we rule out the prospect of compulsory redundancies in the public sector?
Well, I think that the first thing is that it depends on the timing of many of these reductions. It depends upon the ability for departments to look at savings other than savings on the on staffing, and it depends upon the kinds of staff who are cut and whether or not we can move them across.
Is that a long way of saying no, you can't guarantee there won't be public sector redundancies?
We're not planning that there will be compulsory redundancies, certainly in the first 2 years of the budget period, but there may well be compulsory redundancies after that.
Now, the Treasury, you say, has stolen effectively, from your point of view, 300 million of money that you thought you could spend. This was end-of-year money that hadn't been spent here. When did you know about this?
We knew about it in June, indeed.
Why are we only learning about it now?
Well, you didn't. You're only learning about it now. The media are catching up on this. I actually raised it in June. Nobody was quite interested in that stage. I've raised it in the House of Commons. I think in 2 or 3 of the press statements that were issued from my department during the times which I and the Finance Minister in Scotland and Wales met with the Treasury, we mentioned it. So maybe it's maybe you should ask them, why are the media only taking an interest in it now?
OK, well, if we're late at the game, you're the Finance Minister, and of course you can see these things happen. You can also perhaps see them coming. This, of course, was a new government elected in May. It made a change to the rules in June. Should you not have been warning people to spend their money before the new government came into power?
Well, no. I mean, first of all, this came out of the blue. The Treasury and the government in the past actually encouraged us to keep some money over from 1 year to another and gave us the facility to do so because that was a prudent way of spending money rather than kind of blowing it. You find you have some money unspent at the end of the year. Don't blow it, carry it forward.
But with a new government coming into power, was it prudent to let that sit there?
Well, I think the second thing was going to make to you that even though the money was there, you had to apply to the Treasury to spend it anyhow. You didn't automatically have access to it. You had to get Treasury permission. And thirdly, David Cameron had always said that he would show respect to the devolved assemblies across the United Kingdom. That meant that any changes like this would be discussed and debated with them, would be given forewarning, and that wasn't done. So, you know, we couldn't have seen this coming down the track. It was a prudent way of spending public money. And indeed,
is it prudent to see 87 million go from education?
Well, the Treasury are going to have to find some other way of doing it, because otherwise you're going to find it will be mad rush at the end of the year. But is it prudent? The question you've asked is about education and the money which has been there. The Department of Education actually gave guidelines to schools that they could keep up to 5% of their budget. And many schools did that and did it for good reasons. I'll give you one example. Just at the weekend there, one teacher told me, principal told me, she did not take the administrative time that she could have done. She did it at home. She didn't take her 2 days in the office in order to save up for a classroom assistant.
Was that wise?
And it was the wise thing to do. And she was given guidance to do that. And what I think the Education Minister needs to do now, and this isn't lost, of course, the Education Minister needs now to make it quite clear to schools that she will honour the savings which they have made, which they've been encouraged to make, and if there have to be reductions, then find those reductions elsewhere in the budget. And it's not £87 million we'd have to find 1 year either, Jim, because most schools, the way they've behaved in the past was they maybe spent about 10 or 15% of that money and then carried the rest over to another year. So it shouldn't be the full £87 million.
The other issue we're looking at today is accountability. We've seen in our film there the difference between Scotland and Northern Ireland as to how ministers react. You seem to think that ministers here should behave like the Scottish ones. You wrote earlier this month in relation to Conor Murphy. Will he be as honourable as the Transport Minister in Scotland, or will the punishment parcel be passed down the line? Now, we've seen where the punishment parcel currently sits. It's with Northern Ireland Water. The Chief Executive has gone. Do you think he should go too, the Minister?
I don't renege from the view which I expressed a couple of weeks ago on this. I think if the whole point of devolution is that government in Northern Ireland should be accountable. If a minister does not do the job that he or she has been appointed to do, or if on their watch, because of negligence or because they took their eye off the ball, something happens which is detrimental, then I think that it instills confidence in the system if the minister is to do the right thing.
Spell it out. What should Conor Murphy do?
Well, I've already spelt it out. We now have a report looking at...
I don't think you have. You said it there, that will he be as honourable? Yes. You've asked a question, what should he do to be honourable?
Well, and I think what we have at the moment is we've got an investigation into the behaviour not just of Northern Ireland Water, but also of the Minister. And if that makes it clear that the Minister could have done things which he didn't do, or didn't do things which he should have done, then he ought to go.
Sammy Wilson, many thanks indeed.